Everyone, let's continue. We will now talk about the conditional statements in Python. So up to this point we have seen sequential statements where we have a group of statements that we execute one by one step at a time. For example, when we were calculating the average of two numbers, so we followed a step-by-step sequence. But in conditional statements, what happens, we have choices, we have different options, we have different branches that we can take. So in any programming languages, there are basically three types of statements that we can have. We can have sequential, we can have conditional that we will discuss now, and we can have repetition structures as well. So repetition, that will be the next one. So conditional I will talk about now. So conditional statements, we use them whenever we have a choice, whenever we can choose between different options. For example, a very basic if condition which is available in Python, how it works is that we provide first the keyword if. So this keyword of if, this is once again in small letters, and you have to use the exact word and then put a space and provide a condition. Now condition, it can be a Boolean inequality operation, it can be a logical expression. We will talk about both of them. So if that condition is true, we will execute some group of statements and then move forward. But if the condition is false, in that case our flow will no longer be a sequence. We will just jump over the group of statements that we have here. So we'll just make a direct jump and skip these statements. So that is your if condition. Now how the if condition works, once again the letter if keyword is case sensitive. You have to write in small letters, not capital. The condition is a Boolean expression. It can be, for example, less than, it can be greater than, it can be less than equal, it can be greater equal, and there are other ones as well that we will cover. And then once you write the condition, you must put a colon symbol as well. So the colon symbol, that is, you can do using the shift plus the semicolon button. You can use that to insert the colon symbol, and once you do that, once you press enter, the Python will automatically insert some spaces here to basically indent our code. That will basically help us identify that the group of statements that I am writing after this condition, they are part of this if block. So if the condition is true, these statements will be considered. If it is false, these statements will be skipped over. So in Google Colab, by default, we insert two spaces. In case of Python, like in the offline Python or in Anaconda, it insert 4 spaces by default. Now, what are the conditions? What are the Boolean operations we can have? We can have greater than, we can have less than, we can have equal. So equal here, if I say x double equals y, that means I'm doing the comparison operation. So let me give you an example. If x is, let's say, 5 and y value is, let's say, 7. So if I do, let's say, x double equals y, this statement will give me the answer false. It will not assign the value of y to x, it will just give me the answer false. However, if y was also 5, then x double equal y will give me true. That's how the equality comparison works. We similarly have greater equal, we have less than equal, and we have this exclamation excuse me. So we have exclamation equal, that means the not equal sign. So the same example, if this is 7 and now if I do x not equal, that is the exclamation mark, x not equals y, that will give me the answer true in this case, because x is 5 and y is 7. So these are some of the Boolean expressions that we have. Now based on that, we can do some examples. So here, let me open the Python code block. So here, if let's say I have a variable whose value is, let's say, 5, and I do this, if var is greater than 4, in that case I want to print let's say PYP 002, and outside the if block. Notice as soon as I pressed enter after typing the condition and the colon, it automatically inserted the spaces here, the indents. And when I press enter at the end of this statement, it will automatically go to the new line with the same indents. You see that? So it will keep on adding statements into our blocks. Now if I want to get out of the condition, I have to move back. I have to use the backspace so that I am in the previous block here. So notice my cursor is here. So here if I print something here, let's say the variable value. So here notice we have a very simple example here where the value of the variable is 5. So I will check the condition 5, is it greater than 4? So the statement, the answer will be true. In that case, the print PYP002 statement will be executed, and when we get out of the condition, we have another print which will print the value of the variable, which will be 5. So if I run this, I will get PYP002 and 5. But however, if the value of the variable was, let's say, 2, now what will happen is the condition 2 greater than 4 will be false, and in this case I will just skip over the print PYP002 block. So in this case, if I run this one, I will only get the answer 2. Now based on that, we can do a very simple exercise here. So you see, if variable is 2, if 2 is less than 4, this is true. So in this case I will print variable is less than 4, and this line will also be part of the if block. So both of these print statements will be executed. Similarly, if variable value is 6, and now if I check 6, is it less than 4? The answer is false, and this means this statement will be skipped over, the second one. So I will only print the one statement which is outside the block. And then we have another example of this one. So what if, let's say, I remove the indent after writing the if condition. So if I remove the spaces and try to run this, I will get an error, that is expected an indented block after the if statement. So there should be at least one indentation after the if condition that indicates the statement I am writing is the answer if the condition is true. So now it will work fine. This will also give me an error. So as an example, what we can do is we can write a program that will read the grade of the student and the number of absents. If the absents are positive, greater than 0, in that case we will subtract the absents from the grade. Otherwise we will keep the grade unchanged. That means if the condition is false, we will not do anything to the grade. But if the condition, that is if the absents are positive, greater than 0, in that case we will do some work. We will reduce the grade. Otherwise we will not reduce the grade. That means if the condition is false, we will not reduce the grade. So let's do this one very quickly. So here what I can do is I can first get the grade input. Let's say grade is equal to float input, and I can ask enter your grade. So once I got the grade input, I can now ask for the absent. So that will be an integer. I will say okay, input the integer with the message enter number of absents. So once I have both of them, what I can do is I can only check. I will check if the absents are greater than 0. That means the absents are positive. In this case I will reduce the grade. I will say grade negative equals the absence. So this is a short form of grade negative equal. This is same as writing grade is equal to grade minus the absents. I can write it in short form, negative equals, and the right hand variable here, that is the absents. I can do this for subtraction, for addition, for multiplication, for division, and so on. So I will only do this if the absents are positive. Now once I have done the work, I will go out from the condition. Notice my cursor is back here. Now I can print the grade. I will say that okay, updated grade is equal to, and comma, I will provide the grade variable here. So if I run this one, it says enter grade. If I enter 87 and let's say my absents are 5, so my updated grade should be 82. So that's how you can use the if function. But the more important one, the more important condition we have is what is called the if else condition. So this is the same like if, but it has another branch, which is the false branch. So if the condition is true, we will do some work here with the indentation. After that, I will write the else keyword. Once again, this is a keyword. It is case sensitive. You have to be careful, and it should be written in small letters. So if the condition I provide here is true, I will execute these statements and then jump over the else block. If the condition is false, I will jump to the else block, do the work, and then move forward. So in case of flowchart, our sequential flow now has branches. I can go in either this direction or this direction. So I will say that okay, if the condition is true, follow this path and ignore this one. If the condition is false, follow this path and ignore the other one. So that is how the if else condition works. So here a very simple example is I can check if a student is pass or fail depending on the grade. So what I can do is I can make another block and I can ask the student for his grade, which I already have here. So once I get the grade, what I will do is I will provide the condition. That is, if the grade is greater or equal to, let's say 60 is our threshold. In this case, I will print the message pass, or else, and notice for else I have to remove the indentation again. Let me do it again. So after I press enter in the print, notice I have the same indentation here. I need to remove this indentation in order to write the else block. So I'll say else, I will now print fail. So now you notice in the if else block we have now two choices, either pass or fail, and one of them will be chosen depending on the grade that I enter. So if I run this one, if I enter 87, it will display the grade pass, and then if I run it again, I enter let's say 45, it will display the grade fail. So this is how basic if else conditions they work. This is the flow chart of the same thing that I am doing there right now. Another way we can use if else is to check if a number is even or odd. So even numbers are the ones when they are divided. For example, if I have an even number like 78, we have 80, we have 40. So these are all even numbers. If I divide them by 2, if I divide this number by 2, I will get the answer 39. I will get the answer here 40, and here I will get the answer 20. But the main idea is how can we check if a number is even or odd. We simply need to check if it is divisible by 2. How can we do that? So let me write the basic structure first. The basic structure of our program will be that we will get a new number input. So here I will say that okay, the number is equal to int input. I can put a message enter a number. Now whatever number we receive, what I will do is I want to write a condition here, and if this condition is true, I want to print that the number is even, and when I remove the indentation I type the else, and in the else part I will write that if the condition is false, I will print the number is odd. The important thing here is how to find this condition. So to get this condition, we go back here. So you notice all the even numbers, they are divisible by 2. So I want something here which is fixed so that I can compare it using the comparison operation, the double equal. So here if I simply divide this, I'm getting the whole numbers answer here. But another way to do that is to calculate the remainder. So what is the remainder? Remember we did this, x percentage y. As an example, let's say if I do 15 percentage 6, that means 6 2s are 12, 15 minus 12, I'm left with 3, so 3 is the remainder. Now let's try this one here. If I divide 78 by 2, I am able to divide it fully and my remainder will be 0. Similarly, if I divide 80 by 2, that will be 40 answer, but the remainder will be 0. And similarly here the remainder will be 0. So what I can do is we can calculate the remainder using a very simple equation. If you remember, that was the number percentage 2. That will calculate the remainder of the number. And what I will do is I will just compare it with 0. So that is, for comparison, I will use double equal sign and I will say, okay, if this is double equals 0, that means this is even number, else it is an odd number. So if I run this one as well, if I enter, let's say 75, it will say odd, and let me run it again. If I enter 88, it will say now even. Alright, now we can continue the same idea and talk about if-else conditions now. But before we do that, there are, besides the Boolean operator, we have some logical operators in Python as well. So what are logical operators? Up to this point, we have seen that a Boolean operator, for example, the less than operator, greater than, less than equal, greater equal, all these operators, whenever we work on them, for example, 6 greater than 5, the answer of all these operators will be either true or false, which is a logical output. But our input for for all these operators, the input can be any number we have. So what are logical operators? The logical operators, their property is that not only the output but the inputs, both the inputs are also in the form of true or false. So if I have two inputs A and B, and both of them can have either a value of true or false, in that case that means we can have total 4 possible inputs. They can be both of them false, or the first one is false, the second one is true, the first one is true, the second one is false, or both of them are true. So if I have input like this, so we have false false, we have false true, we have true false, and we have true true. So based on that, we can have the first operator, the logical operator, that is called the AND operation. The AND operation between the two logical inputs gives us a true result only when both inputs are true. So when both inputs are true, their AND operation will give me the true result. Otherwise, if we have false anywhere in the inputs, my output will always be false. This is the AND operation. Similarly, we have the OR operation. The OR operation says the output is true if any of the input contains true in it. So here you see we have true value here, so the output will be true. So here we have true, the output will be true. Here we also have true, so the output will be true. So in all these cases the output will be true. The output is false only when both inputs are false, so that is the OR operation. And similarly we have the NOT operator. The NOT operator is for single input. It can be for A or it can be for B. So the NOT, what it will do is it will do the opposite. If it is true, it will make it false. If it is false, it will make it true. But their actual use is a little different. So for example, if I do this, I say NOT of X greater than Y, that means the opposite of greater will be, it will become X less than equal to Y. So it will do the opposite of whatever is inside. So here we have some example on how these work. So if I have three variables, X is 15, Y is 20, Z is 30, and I do these prints. So here if X is greater than Y, so 15 greater than 20 is true. Don't need to check the other side, because in OR, if one input is true, the overall result will be true anyways. Similarly here I have an AND operation. So x greater than y, 15 greater than 20 is false. Or y less than z here. So sorry, the first one, it is true because y 20 is less than z, which is 30. So false or true, the overall result here will be true. But here in the second one, x greater than y, 15 greater than 20 is false. And since AND operation requires both inputs to be true, that means the overall result of this one will be false. I don't need to check the other side. Similarly here, x greater than y is false, y greater than z is also false. False or false will give me the false result, and when I AND it with any other input, it will be false. So the output here will be still false. Then not of x greater than y. X greater than y, 15 greater than y is false. But not of false will make it true. True or with anything is true. Similarly, y less than x. 20, is it less than 15? No. False. Or z not equal to 40. So z is 30. Is it not equal to 40? Yes, it is not equal to 40. So this is true. So once again we have OR operation, so the overall result will be true. So I can give you questions like this in the quiz. I can ask you that, okay, what will be the output? Is it true or false? So the next thing we'll talk about now is the nested if-else condition. So we saw a program that we did where, for example, I calculated the grade here. So if I run this program, that will display pass or fail, and let's say this time I enter this grade. This is a very large number. If I'm writing a practical program, this should give me the result that, okay, this is a wrong input. But if I run this, it gives me the answer pass. Similarly, if I enter the grade to be some negative long value, it will just display the result as fail. So basically my program is not handling the error inputs. So how can we do that? How can we deal with error inputs? We can use nesting. So what I can do is, I can first check, I can provide an error condition. So if this error condition is true, I will say whatever I can print the error. If this condition is false, that means my inputs are within the range from 0 to 100. So if this condition is false, then I can check if the grade is greater or equal to, let's say, 60. If that is true, I will print, let's say, pass, or else I will print fail. So here I have now multiple branches. So I have first condition. If it is true, I will print error. If it is false, I will check the next step. That is to check if the grade is greater or equal to 60, I will say pass, otherwise I will say fail. So the important thing here is I need to check the error condition. So I have two possibilities for the grade to be an error input. That is, if the grade is greater than 100, this is one possibility. The other possibility is if the grade is less than 0, that means the value of the grade is 0. So I want to incorporate both of them into this error condition. So one way to do that is I can write the if condition, that is if grade is less than 0, and we just saw two operators, and OR. So I can say and grade greater than 100. This is one possibility. Another possibility can be if grade is less than 0 or grade is greater than 100. So which one is correct? That we will see now. So let's say if I enter the grade to be as 200. So 200, is it less than 0? This will be false, and when I take the AND, it doesn't matter if 200 is greater than 100. This will be true, but false and true will give me this error condition to be false, and I will still check and I will still get pass for when the grade is 200. So we cannot use the AND operation here. We will have to use the OR operation, which gives us a choice. So what I will do is, I have this grade input, and now what I will do is I will write the condition and I will check, okay, if the grade is less than 0 or the grade is greater than 100. So if this is true, I will print that, okay, this is a error input. This is an error input. Else I have to move back. I have to remove the indentation before I type else. So I will remove the indentation. Now I will type else. But in else, notice in else part, when the condition is false, that means we are in the correct input range. We still have two choices left. So when we have this situation, what we can do is, we can put the condition inside the else of this first if. So what I will do is, I will put this condition that we have, I will put it here inside the else. So here you have to be careful, you have to indent it properly. So here, this is how the condition will look like. So here, notice inside the else I put a new condition, that is, if the grade is greater or equal to 60, I will print pass, else I will print fail. So this idea of putting a condition inside another condition, this idea is basically called nesting. So that is, we have nested if else conditions now. So if I run this one now, let's see, if I enter the grade 87, it will print pass. If I enter the grade, let's say 874, it will now display error. So we can handle error inputs using, first of all, the logical operators or an and we can also nest the conditions. We can put conditions inside conditions, so it will look like this. So this is the idea behind nested if else condition. What if I want this? Let's say I handled the error condition and I have two possibilities. Grade is greater or equal to 60, I want to print pass, and otherwise I want to print fail. But instead of this, I want further possibilities. Let's say if the grade is greater or equal to 90, I want to print A plus, else I have furthermore condition. I will say if the grade is greater or equal to 60 now, in that case I want to print pass, and then else I want to print fail. So now what I am doing here is, I have now multiple branches now. So here I am doing nesting inside nesting, so I am putting conditions inside conditions like this. So first, our error condition, which was this one, that is, if the grade is less than 0 or grade is greater than 100, if it is true, I will print error. Else means if this condition is false, I will check if the grade is greater or equal to 90. If it is true, I will print A plus. Else I have further more options. So this type we can further do indentation. So here I will say else if the grade is greater or equal to 90. In this case, I will print my grade is A plus. Now whenever I want to type else, I will move back one step. So I use backspace, and this is the else. And in the else, what I will do now is, I will put this if grade is greater or equal to 60. And then I will press enter. You will see this is further indented the answer, which is pass. And then my else, once again, else I have to move one step back, and then inside the else my print will be fail. So now I am putting condition inside this condition is inside this one, and we keep on doing that. So here if I run this one now, this program can handle error input and also the grade. If I enter, let's say 97, I will get the grade A plus. If I run it again and I enter, let's say 45, I will get the grade fail. If I enter, let's say 78, I will get pass only. If I enter 78451, I will get error. So this is called nesting in if-else conditions. Okay, so to further elaborate on this example, we will do a program where we have to print a message based on the GPA of the student. So the message is either excellent, it can be very good, it can be good, fair, poor, or out of range. And you notice we have now multiple conditions that we need to check. So in order to do this program, we can do it in two ways. One, we can use the else if condition, or we will use a new one which is called elif condition. So before I talk about elif, first let's try to do this one with the simple nested if-else conditions. So when we are dealing with this type of program, always deal with the error condition in the beginning. So I'll start by first receiving the GPA input. That can be a floating number that will be input by the user, and let's call it enter your GPA. So once I get the GPA input, I will deal with the error conditions as soon as possible. So our error conditions here in this example, they are if GPA is greater than 4 or GPA is less than 0. So I will deal with this error condition. So I will say that okay, if GPA is less than 0 or GPA is greater than 4. So if these are our error conditions, if this is true, I will print the message which is out of range. And then to type else, once again we have to go back first. I will go back and now I will type else. Else I will now deal with our regular condition. So we begin from the top. If GPA is greater or equal to 3.5, the message should be excellent. So what I will do is I will type here in the else, nested else, I will type a new if GPA is greater or equal to 3.5. If this is true, so if this is true, I'm going to print the message that is excellent. So I will print the message here excellent, and now when I press enter, notice I'm still inside the if condition, so I have to move back one step. I will use the backspace, and here I will type the else of this GPA greater or equal to 3.5 condition. So when I type else and press enter, I'm in the nested if else block, and here I have the new condition if GPA is less than 3.5 or greater or equal to 3. But notice, since we are in the else of this condition, that automatically means the GPA is less than 3.5 because that condition is already false. That's why we are here. So I only need to check this part of the condition if GPA is greater or equal to 3. So here I will type if GPA is greater or equal to 3. In this case, so if GPA is greater or equal to 3, in this case with the nested, I will print the message here very good. And once again, to type else, I will have to move one step back, and then inside the else I will have my new condition if GPA is greater or equal to 2.5. So inside the else with the nesting, I will type if GPA is greater or equal to 2.5. In this case, I'm going to print the message which is good. And once again, I will move one step back and type else and press enter. I will have the last condition which have just two choices left, fair and poor. That is if GPA is greater or equal to 2. So here I will say else if GPA is greater or equal to, in this case I'm going to print the message fair, or move one step back, else I'm going to print the message that is poor. So notice now how the amount of nesting we have to do in order to implement this program. So we can do this one in another way using what is called the elif condition. Now another approach once again for solving this without the need for multiple nested if-else conditions is to use another type of condition which is called elif. So what elif does basically, it combines else keyword and the if keyword together without the need for indentation, without the need for extra level of spaces that we see here. So here we have to do indentation here, we have to do indentation here, and so on. So what we can do is we can combine these together into a single keyword that is using elif. So what I can do is I can just remove this part here, join it elif GPA is greater or equal to 3.5, and no need for indentation here, and I can just put this part back. Similarly, I can do the same thing with this one. I can say elif GPA is greater or equal to 3, print very good, but with the simple indentation. And then again this one I will move back to the beginning, and here I will again combine these together into single elif and then remove the indentation. Just one indentation will be required, which will be for the main if-else condition. And the same thing I can do again here, remove this one, and without the need for indentation I can write them all together in this format. So this is another way we can implement the same condition, and this time if I enter, let's say 3.9, I will get the GPA excellent. If I run it again and I enter, let's say 8, I should get out of range error. If I run it again, let's say I enter 2.8, I will get good. So these are different type of conditions we have. I will try to make another small video just for the last example. So this one is done already. This one, there is a solution in the lab manual, you can try that one. So for now, this is the end of the basic if-else conditions.